behaviour.in. My name is Lisa Pallavi, and this is episode 3 in the series Your Money, Your Behavior. Joining us for this episode is Ashok, who's a co-founder at Scripbox.com, one of the most popular robo-advisory platforms in the Indian market. Hi, Ashok.
Hi, Lisa.
Ashok, as we were speaking earlier, we are doing this series called Your Money, Your Behavior, and the focus of this series really lies on, molding behavior in a way that one can make the most efficient choices for one's financial life, be it financial goals, be it money management, whatever it is. Scriptbox has been around now, I think, for 10 years. Is that right?
Almost 8 years now,
8
2012.
years. Okay, sorry. So my mistake, 8 years. So even that is a long time, and you have grown significantly in that time. So you have been mapping individual behavior around investments for a long time now. So I'm going to pick your brains on how you nudge behavior in the most kind of suitable direction for an individual investor.
Absolutely.
So Ashok, what we are going to do is, we'll start at the very basic. You see, this whole experience that all of us are going through, thankfully it's a collective experience that this COVID-19 has brought, highlights the importance of managing risk, because now that we are in the middle of risk, really we can appreciate it better. So when somebody is starting out, an investment portfolio or financial planning or whatever it is, how does one shift focus away from just wanting the return that one can achieve for their goals, to actually talking about risk adjusted returns and whether they can actually take the risk that comes with those returns, and focusing more on that. What's your experience been?
I think the risk as a word is not honestly understood. I mean, I'm 45 now. If I go back to my 20s, I don't remember the word risk being kind of fully understood. All I knew is that what I'm expecting doesn't happen. Oh, then that's risk. I mean, that's all I understood. And I'm talking from an young owner point of view. So I think as an industry and specifically robo advisory, uh, um, we chose a path of educating the people first. I mean, our content platform, through the blog articles, we started educating what is the risk. So what we have done is, if anybody has a 5-year or more horizon, then we direct them to equity mutual funds. Anybody less than 5 years, we default them to a debt mutual funds or a liquid mutual funds. And we start by asking whether do you have emergency fund. Now, while I am saying this, it looks very simple, but this as a behavioral default, because we're online, and when you come to the website and you start exploring things, we don't immediately present, hey, this fund has given this return and that fund has given that return. As an youngster, I'm going to get tempted to the highest return, and can I get the highest return in the shortest period?
Yes, of course. That's the temptation, that once you take a bite of a good high return mutual fund, you want, more of that. You don't want anything else.
One of the important thing is to checking the time horizon of investment. We use that as a trick to kind of direct them to the right investments to deliver the risk adjusted returns, right? And I also wanted to talk about a little bit about robo advisor, not just Scriptbox. What is the robo advisor? Today we all had a pen and paper to total the numbers. Then there is something called calculator game, and you enter the number correct, and the calculator is going to give the correct answer. There is no error as long as your job is to enter the number correctly, right? So the simplest way a robo advisor does is that, hey, you know what? If I can put all the mutual funds which you can buy offline, online, suddenly it becomes online. So a lot of people today in the market, I see in the name of robo advisory, just solving for a convenience problem. The convenience problem is that, can I buy any mutual fund put up offline, online? That is not a robo advisory. Robo advisor is obviously has to build in certain recommendation engine, a recommendation algorithm, to recommend what is right for you. I think, which is where I think some players, and specifically we pioneered this, we brought in an unbiased nature of selection and evidence-based selection of mutual funds. We don't again come to the funds directly. We first assess the time horizon, and then only we sort of direct them to start investing.
Tell me something. How do you follow through if, if one is actually answering these questions and then moving on? There's no way to skip this in your platform?
No, actually, one of the things we said is that we even labeled it. Let's say if pizza was sold saying that not for good health product. I'm just saying,
Right.
I'm not like I love pizza. Okay. Saying that it's a junk food. If somebody
Yeah.
says you're eating a junk food, and then I'm reminded, oh, it is a junk food. So we even
Right.
label the product itself instead of calling it equity mutual funds or debt mutual funds. We label it as a long-term money and a short-term money.
I see.
So therefore, a youngster, especially first-time investors, read these names. Acha,
Yeah.
ye to long-term hai. Oh, this is
Yeah.
short-term. So therefore, it becomes a behavioral default.
Yeah, it creates a different kind of mental map, I suppose, when you're looking at the product and you're thinking, okay, this is long term, okay, this is short term.
Exactly.
Right.
And as far as the question of whether you can skip, we asked 2 or 3 interventions saying that just highlighting it again, this money that you're investing, you're going to withdraw only after 5 years. Then only invest in this product. While introduction, during the navigation, and eventually order placement. Because I think this reminder sort of help.
Right. Often it is because you've seen somebody close to you have a good experience in their own financial investment journey.
Yeah.
And you really want to kind of, try and replicate that to get the best return, because you feel that, okay, look, it worked for so-and-so and it can work for me as well. But that's not the case, is it? I mean, every individual has a different paths that they need to take on the investing side, because the outcomes are different. I don't want the same things. You don't want the same things.
Yeah.
So, is there enough customization within, your platform, for example, to address these kind of issues and ensure that one doesn't necessarily just follow what their, friend did or father or mother did?
No, absolutely. I think who are our best teachers? Our parents, mom and dad, and then uncle who's always been around, right, to help you.
Yeah.
So replicating somebody else's, just like in life skills or a career, it's not going to be easy. So as far as how we handle it, is that I think the first question, while we are all Lobo advisor, there is a little bit of assistance through telephone as well. As people register in the platform, we call them up, that, sir, madam, what is the purpose of your investment? I think the main thing is that what is the purpose? If the purpose seems to be short-term goals, if it is not a long-term goal, then we kind of direct them to the right instruments or a right section of the sort of investment there. And second is, as I said, during the buying process or during the investment process, if there is a way we can give enough pop-ups or enough cues to kind of ask the person to ask that question. But all said and done, I would say a good 20-30% of the customers we have seen, how come my friend sitting next to me in the office has got 17% return and I am getting 12% return? Then we need to sort of explain, the time horizon, etc. The thing is, people would have suddenly taken a one-time decision of investing and they compare that with the SIP person or the vice versa. So these are comparisons are a constant endeavor to get maximizing return for their money without
So I
sort
think
of.
you should add a goal there, trying to match my neighbor, because it seems a lot of people have that goal. But yeah, I mean, you're right. So I think what I hear you saying is that engaging with your client in whichever form that you can, whether it's through that call or through the pop-ups and the interventions, you try and mold them in the right direction rather than doing something that, they think they want to do. They should be able to take the right decision for their own money life.
Exactly. I actually wanted to add again from as a robo advisor, we are at a big advantage. Because what happens is, as you know, that younger audience especially, today, unlike somebody like me who's at 45, I think with the internet, with the digital era, everything is searchable today. I don't think anything can be, I can say even now, if it is not verifiable, I mean, they would not go for it. And today, in fact, they don't ask, we asked our parents, they asked Google, right? So to that extent, I think they are far more informed and at the same time they are over-informed also. So
Absolutely.
one key thing is that how do you bring in evidence-based process
Right.
in terms of risk profiling, as well as the comparing with one investment style or one investment person to others. I mean, those are the things we've learned a great level of detail in the last 8 years, both interacting with the customer,
Yeah.
sometimes learning that how to kind of position a proposition, because while you might have the excellent proposition, if you do
Right.
not understand, it's of no use, because the at least for me the calling has been that how can I make more people financially independent. That's the mission I am in. That's why we started Scriptbox. But
Yeah.
and we all know that Warren Buffett also says that I say only one thing which people are don't listen. Getting rich slow is the
Right.
scheme I forget, and that is something not appealing to youngsters, and they don't want to wait and watch the paint dry. Now,
Right.
can we do that in the robo advisory model? Process is the winner, not
Yeah.
necessarily the performance. Without process, performance cannot be achieved.
I think you're absolutely right, and that's what I also believe in. That now there is an over information, and there is a lot of access to young earners. It's easy to do it. You download an app, you make an investment. It's a 5 minute job really, but are they doing it right? I think that's what the focus should be, and what is right depends on the individual, what they want, how they perceive different things. So it's different for every individual, every person who is making this investment. And I think yeah. Okay, Ashok, so one last thing that I want to touch upon is behavior in times where the external influences can be overpowering. So there could be, the economy could be doing really well and the market's doing really well, or like now we are in this complete uncertain phase, and we are staring at economic slowdown. And these kind of extreme events externally tend to make us either nervous or euphoric. How does one keep on track with your own investment goal regardless of what is happening? Again, this is more a behavior thing, because you just need to sort of be nudged in the right direction. You don't really need to change every time your portfolio something, if something is happening. So tell us a little bit about this experience with your
I
platform.
think, needless to say, I think what we are facing today is something nobody has faced before. And
Right.
perhaps in the latest, if we go by history, I think this kind of things happened about 100 years back. So
Right.
because it had happened 100 years back, I also took an effort to learn some stock market history of 100 years. And the 100-year history exists in
Right.
US. So if
Right.
you look at 100 year back, and since then how US markets have performed, and India is fairly young market that way, 30, 40 years, right?
Yeah.
And every time a World War One or a World War Two or a pandemic or epidemic has happened, I think the recovery has happened anywhere between 100 days to 1,000 days. 100
Okay.
days being months and 1,000 days being few
Yeah.
years. To your point, needless to say, there's going to be a lot of major events or minor events going to happen
Yeah.
every month. And I think this 100 days to 1,000 days framing is very important. That's what I keep telling people. That if patience is there for 100 days to 1,000 days, and 1,000 days on the equity and 100 days when it comes of short-term investments,
Yeah.
I think things do get back to normal. Right? It is a patience game,
Yeah.
and which is little too much to ask for youngsters. And therefore, I think anybody and everybody in the industry, whether it is a robo advisory model or a physical model, I
Yeah.
think the idea of patience and bringing an evidence-based statistics in front of youngsters would be very, very sort of useful. But what is more important is that also selecting the right investment based on the horizon.
Getting rich slow, which is what you're talking about. Just tell
Yes.
me two behavior aspects, just any two behavior aspects which you think should be a priority for an investor.
Yeah.
What should they focus on? Two aspects, that's it.
So one is that one aspect I would say is that if you are doing an SIP, which is a monthly investment, there will be times like this where you'll be tested. Okay, should I do? Should I not do? I think
Mhm.
the key is to continuing, whether it is a good month or a bad month or a market correction or not market correction. I think
Right.
that is one behavior. I myself have been investor for 20 years and I became financially independent because of that specific behavior. And second is every year as the salary goes up, sometimes zero salary increase, sometimes 10% salary increase, sometimes you get promotion, whatever it is. I think whatever percentages you got as an increase, at least that much to be increased on a side. I think that's one behavior, regular investment behavior. Second thing is, I think it is a responsibility of every individual to educate ourselves. I think this is the 101 basics because it's not taught in school and college. I think
Not at all.
educating yourself about a little bit about market, about investing, and you should have your own point of view.
You started 20 years ago at the age of 25. Starting early, in my opinion, is one of the best things that anybody can do, and that's again a behavior shift from spending. At 25, most people just want to spend, but one needs to fare that little bit of change into investing. We are lucky in today's days; you can start with a small amount as well, and very quick, very easy. So starting early, in my opinion, is also one of those
No, I
behavior
agree with
tools
you.
which has.
Thank you for pointing that out, and I think I missed calling that out. I agree.
You did it yourself, so I think for you it's like inbuilt behavior that one starts early.
In
So yeah.
fact, we wrote this small piece, and it's a very important one. Somebody at 25 or 22 gets a salary of 25,000 and can save 5,000. If he
Yes.
saves 5,000 a month and keeps increasing 10% a month, by 30 he'll be an Indian millionaire, right? He or she will be Indian millionaire. That is 10 lakh rupees. And at 30, if you have 10 lakh rupee, if you don't withdraw it and leave it for 30 years, by 60
Yeah,
years,
yeah. That's all you need to do. You just need to keep it.
only
Uh,
is very important.
Absolutely. You have to have that patience. You have to be regular, and you have to start early. Thank you so much, Ashok, for joining us on this episode. Thanks a lot for your inputs.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me, Lisa.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Ashok.